Today we're going to talk about adapting old school manual focus lenses to your EOS system. Both for my Canon 6D and my EOS film cameras, my favorite lenses to use are still these three. The Canon Nifty 50, the 50mm 1.8, old school 28mm 2.8, and the 85 1.8. I've owned a handful of lenses for the EF system, and I just keep coming back to these three. To me, they've just been the best balance of quality and size and price. But just like many of you, I love to try different things and to experiment with different equipment. So today I'm going to share a couple of kinds of manual focus lenses that I've adapted to my EOS film camera system. We all know that adapted lenses on mirrorless systems is a very common thing, and one of the biggest benefits of shooting mirrorless, in my opinion, is that freedom it gives you to adapt pretty much any lens you can think of to a mirrorless system. But you can also adapt some old school manual focus lenses to your EOS film camera system and get some decent results. The two types of lenses I want to talk about today are Nikon f-mount lenses, like this Tokina 28mm, and M42 mount lenses like this Pentax Takumar 135 on my Rebel G here. There are a handful of great adapters to adapt these lenses to the EF mount. I'll put some links in the description below, some of the adapters I've tried and had great success with. Both the Nikon and M42 mount lenses have small, thin adapters that don't add a ton to your camera size and length. Both can kick out quality images, and both kinds of lenses have a decent amount of choices out there in the used market. So the lens on my Rebel G right now is the Pentax Takumar 135 3.5 lens, and I'm sure you've seen some videos on YouTube before. I think Mark Holtz had some great videos on these lenses. His channel's awesome. M42 mounts are screw mounts, so this adapter just screws on and off, which makes it really easy to switch between lenses. If you collect a few M42 lenses and you only have one adapter, it's really easy to move that adapter back and forth between each lens. The Nikon adapter, although just as thin, or almost just as thin, is not quite as easy to move around. It's not a screw mount. There's a little lever that releases the lens, and then you remove it that way. One of the things about the EOS system in general that makes this feasible is that the camera's always metering. So you're always getting feedback on the meter as you're adjusting the aperture of the lens. So even though you're not seeing what the f-stop is on the display like you would using a native lens, you'll still get a meter response when you're opening and closing the aperture. So you just have to pull the camera down and look at the aperture setting on the lens itself whenever you need to double check what aperture you're on. But most likely, if you know what aperture you're starting at, when you put the camera up to your eye and adjust, you can kind of figure out about where you're at by looking at the way the meter changes as you adjust. You throw these adapters on these lenses and you're pretty much good to go, and you're up and running, and it's pretty self-explanatory on how it works. There's two things to keep in mind when you're doing this, is that obviously you don't have the f-stop reading in the viewfinder anymore, because the camera is not electrically talking to the lens to find that out. The meter still responds as you adjust the aperture. The other thing to keep in mind is that sometimes it might be difficult to get focus when the aperture is closed down all the way. So sometimes it's best to open the aperture, focus your shot, and then close the aperture down to where you need it to be. So one of the questions might be, why do this? Why adapt these lenses to begin with? The biggest reason for me is choice. It opens up a lot more lens options for you. It's always fun to try different kinds of lenses and see what kind of different looks you can get. Price sometimes can be a reason. Since these Nikon lenses have gone up in price over the years on the used market, price isn't always a benefit. Oftentimes these old lenses become a lot more expensive than even the Nifty 50 brand new. So price isn't always a benefit, especially with the Nikon lenses. but oftentimes it's more of a benefit with the M42 mount lenses. Quality sometimes could be a benefit, and this is definitely true for a handful of the Nikon lenses. So obviously, if you wanted to try some of these Nikon lenses, you could get a Nikon body and shoot with the Nikon body and the Nikon lenses. But having this option to adapt those same high quality lenses to the film camera you might already have or are thinking about getting, and as well being able to use the great EF lenses on there, gives you a really best of both worlds scenario. If you currently shoot digitally, it's possible that you have a mirrorless camera. And the other cool thing is that these lenses can adapt now to your mirrorless camera, and they can adapt to this EOS film camera that you might have. So here are a couple image samples that I just took the other day for this video, just to give you an example of some of the images that I could kick out with these lenses. These photos were created with both the 28 Tokina and the 135 Pentax. So whether it's for value, for quality, or like I said, for choice, adapting lenses to your EOS film camera system can be beneficial in a few ways, but just fun to do overall. If you are just starting out in the EOS film camera system, I still suggest the Nifty 50, the 85 or the 28mm as lenses to start with and to make part of your base lens collection. But if you need to open up some doors for choices, get some of these adapters and start shopping for some of these old school manual focus lenses. So again, thanks for watching. Let me know if you're gonna adapt some old school lenses, and let me know of the results you get. So again, please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.